I want to give a quick shout out to all my patrons. Thank you so much for all of the continued support. Hey everybody, it is the last day of the month, and that means it is time for my November reading recap. I'm going to be giving a little bit of a life update with some actually unfortunate health news. Nothing too bad, don't worry too much. I'm going to be talking about my channel updates, go over my channel and reading stats, and give a recap of the books that I read, and then at the end, I'm going to go over the books that were sent to me over the past month. So the Discord server continues to thrive and grow. We finally reached over 2,000 users, which is awesome. Been looking forward to that for a few months, and we're finally here. If you're not over there, you really should be. It's where the community hangs out in between videos, and I would really love to have you. It's now at about 2,070 people, which is up about 80 from last month, so join now. It's a lot of fun. We do daily trivia, go over the updates to the TBR contest, we vote on what books we should do in the buddy read, a lot of interactive stuff, and I would really love to have you. So, in my life going on here, so there is a lull in sports right now for my kids. I do a lot of coaching for my kids' sports teams, and so indoor soccer will start up this Sunday. I got wrangled into coaching this indoor soccer team, but it's every Sunday, no practices, so it shouldn't be that bad. I'd be going to the games anyways, so it's really a matter of where I'm sitting and how involved I am, so that's cool. And then t-ball and softball will start up in the spring, and I'm not really sure what I'm going to do yet because I was the head coach of my daughter's 2 years older than my son. Which means she will have played 2 years in sports before he played any. So this is her third year playing sports. So I coached the head coach of her t-ball team. She played co-ed t-ball, and I coached that with my dad, who always coached my teams. Then the next year, she moved over to softball, all-girls softball, and I was the assistant coach. And this year, the coach was trying to hand off the team to me, and I don't really want to do that because I also kind of want to be the assistant coach of my son's team, and hopefully I can kind of, jump between practices and spend time with both kids and not have to do a full-time thing for either one of them, but we'll see. We'll kind of see what ends up. I usually end up signing up as an assistant coach and end up the head coach, so we'll figure that out later. So this month on the Discord, we finished up our buddy read, which is like an online book club of Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. It was a ton of fun. The style is we read about 50 pages a day and have a daily discussion on the assigned chapters, and there are dozens of people involved. This one had the most people involved that we've ever had and was our most successful buddy read that we've done. This coming month, we will, of course, do another one, and I will announce what that book is tomorrow in my TBR video. This month, I played 5 different video games. I played Not for Broadcast, which is so underappreciated. It's such a fun game where you play as a TV producer in like this dystopian future where you have to edit everything out and edit out swear words and, choose to play propaganda or not play it. A lot of fun. Then I played some Spyro Reignited Trilogy, so it's the 3 original Spyro games, but Spyro the Dragon, but remade for modern day graphics, and I listened to audiobooks while I did those because they're super easy and just a nice little platformer. I played the original Roller Coaster Tycoon, which is enormous and only costs like $2. For some reason, I had the hankering to get back into that, and it's a blast. I can't believe a game that's so old can hold up so well today. I've also been playing It Takes Two and Sackboy's Big Adventure with my family, and so that's been great. It Takes Two, my daughter is really good at it. So we essentially progress in the story, and then my son jumps in, does a lot of replaying of the older levels, because it's hard for him to, he's 5, it's kind of a hard game. And then all 4 of us play Sackboy's Big Adventure. My wife and I actually got really, when we were dating and it first moved in together, we played a lot of the Little Big Planet and Little Big Planet 2 on PlayStation. And then I don't have a PlayStation anymore, or I have like a PS4. But on Steam is where I play most of my stuff. And so to see a Little Big Planet game come to Steam was great. And so it's really fun playing 4-player games with your family. Again, underappreciated aspect of being a parent is being able to play video games with your kids. And then for health news, which has not been good, very unfortunately, and I haven't mentioned it up until right now, but it's about 3 months ago, I got a cold, and I tested for COVID, and it wasn't that. It was just a regular cold. But not only did I lose my sense of smell, but I got this weird thing. I forget the name of it, but it made all of the things I smell the same, and it's a really gross smell. And so the more something smells like really fragrant, either good or bad, I will only smell that one smell. And it's like, I can't even explain it, but it's a really gross smell. And so all day I just am smelling the same thing, and it's really lame. Like, I wish my smell would have just gone away. That would have been, not great, but way better than it is right now. So I have to breathe through my mouth all the time, which is hard to remember to do. So I'm constantly inadvertently taking breaths through my nose and just kind of grossed out about it. And then, like, right now I'm kind of getting over a cold. And so I've been like coughing and then trying to clear my nose out and like sniffle. And when I do that, I smell it again. And like eating has gotten messed up. So like I have to take a deep breath through my mouth and then bite, and then chew and swallow and then breathe out. Because if I breathe through my nose, it ruins the taste of anything that I eat. And so it sounds like a minor thing. It is. I mean, I can live with it. It's just kind of disappointing. And I'm kind of getting to the point now where, like, for a while, I was feeling like it was just a small little thing and it would go away. And now I'm just kind of feeling like this is my life, So I'm doing this olfactory training where you smell these different like essential oils and like think about and look at a picture of the things. It's like 4 smells that are like proven to help. It's like lemon, eucalyptus, rose, and another thing. It's a weird, the 4th one is clove. And I don't even know what clove normally smells like, but the other 3 I do. And so I'm doing that every day, and it just isn't helping at all. I might go get acupuncture in my nose, which I kind of have a fear of needles, but whatever. I'll try to do that, and then we'll see. But whatever. I just kind of starting to accept that this is the reality, and it's in the big picture, it's not a big deal, but it just kind of sucks. So on to happier topics. Let's talk about the books and the stats for reading this month. I read 8 books, which is not a lot, but it was a lot of pages. I just read pretty big books. Read about 4,750 pages, which is about the same as the previous month. So now this year, I've crossed the 100 books mark. I'm at 103 books for the year and on track for about 113 to finish. I've read a little over 53,000 pages and on track for 58,000. So my goal at the beginning of every year is to read 100 books and 50,000 pages. So I've already beat that, which is great. And yeah, just not quite as much as last year, but I'm spending more time doing the content stuff, and that takes time away that I normally would be reading. And so, but I'm really happy with my reading and being able to meet the goals that I set. I'll probably make the same goals next year. My average score for this year is 3.76, which is up from the previous month by 0.03 because I really like the books this month, but it's down from my overall average. Like every year my score goes down. I can't quite figure out why. I think maybe part of the reason is because I am going through like the top hits of fantasy, which of course are going to get higher scores. And now that I've gone through a lot of those, I'm going to other books. I'm also maybe more critical of books now that I've read a lot. I don't know. But I still feel like I'm loving the books that I read, so I don't like noticeable, I don't see it, but whatever. The views this month were 94,000 on the channel, which is down 25,000. And I knew this would happen because I didn't plan a lot of like big top 10 type stuff videos. I really focused on reviews this month, and reviews will just naturally get less views. I got 12,000 hours watched on my channel this month, which is down 2,000, and 580 new subscriptions, which is down 250. The number 1 video from this month with about 10,000 views was my top 20 disliked fantasy series according to my viewers. The number 2 video with about 7,500 views was my top 10 fantasy and sci-fi series that I have not finished and don't plan on finishing, so DNF'd. And my number 3 video with about 4,000 views was my favorite fantasy series, not mine, the favorite fantasy series of all time according to 50 plus booktubers, which is a video that came out in March, but it still gets about 4,000 views a month, which is crazy that people are still watching that. I just never really got out of the algorithm, I guess. And I'll probably be at like 100,000 views in the next several months, which is crazy. So let's talk about the books themselves. So the first book that I finished up was Republic of Thieves. This is the 3rd book in Gentlemen Bastards. There's only been 3 books written. There's more planned, but who knows if they'll ever be written, because this series has been kind of on hiatus as the authors kind of work through some mental health issues. This is written by Scott Lynch. I predicted a 4 because I gave it a 4 the first time I read it. This is a reread for me on audiobook. And I felt stronger about the second book, the Red Seas Under Red Skies, than I did the first time. So I felt like this one was going to do the same thing. But yeah, same score. Major flaws in this book, but still extremely fun. And I ended up giving it the same 4-star rating. The next book was The General of Israel, which is the 6th book in the Wandering Inn by 𝗂𝐿. I predicted a 5, which I predict in pretty much all the Wandering Inn books that I read, and I also gave it a 5, which is the score I give almost every Fantasy Inn book. Fantasy Inn, Wandering Inn. And this gets the award for the best book that I read this month. This is wonderful. It's the best Wandering Inn book that I read. I am just in love with the series. It keeps climbing up my favorite series of all time list. And I mean, who knows when that will top out, because I feel like I've read 6 huge books and I've only scratched the surface of the content out there. This is by far the longest fantasy series ever written. It is growing at an insane rate. This series started out as this cozy little fantasy, kind of reminiscent, although very different, from like a Legends and Lattes thing, and it turned into this huge sprawling epic with horror elements and hugely multi-POV, and by multi-POV I mean like separate continents separating these characters. And now in this 6th book, we're finally getting a lot of these main characters converging and a lot of the storylines connecting, and it's just so fun watching this big picture come together that again, I'm just scratching the surface and I can't wait to keep going in this. Then I read Fire and Song. This is the 2nd book from the Warformed Stormweaver series by Bryce O'Connor. This came out in November, and I predicted a 4, and I gave it a 4. I ended up giving the first book a 4.5 out of 5, and this one I felt like took a little bit of a step in the wrong direction, although 4s is still a solid score. This is a book that is in the progression fantasy realm. It's a bit more on the YA scale, which is stuff that I don't normally love, but the plot is so addicting on this. Progression fantasy is an easy win for me. Now, some of them have failed miserably for me, but it's not often. Normally, that is a cheat code to make me like a book. And this one is just addicting. I mean, these characters are in these, like, robot outfits, getting new powers and abilities, going through, like, a magic school, like, not magic, but, like, going through this training school where they battle each other. And it's just, like, addicting and fun and not amazing writing from a technical perspective, but just so fun. And that's really ultimately what I'm looking for out of my books. Then I read Best Served Cold. This is the first standalone in the first Law series, so the 4th total book out of 9 total books. So there's 3 in the first Law trilogy, then 3 standalones, and then 3 in the Age of Madness trilogy, which came out after that. And this is by the wonderfully talented Joe Abercrombie. I predicted a 4 stars because that's what I gave it the first time that I read it. I did this in audiobook, and the audiobook is by the greatest audiobook narrator of all time, Stephen Pacey. So yeah, gave this one a 4 the first time, and I gave this one a 5, a pretty easy 5. It's a blast. I gave it a 4 the first time because it was not the first Law trilogy. I came in expecting something that I didn't get. Now that I knew what to expect, and I also knew the ending before I went into it, this is a really fun book to reread because you can see a lot of these things getting set. You can see these dominoes start to fall. The writing is just perfectly technical as always. It's a fun, Ocean's 11 type heist book that is just a blast. And they're turning this into a movie. Who knows if it'll ever get actually filmed, because you know how movie scripts work. But it's the best first Law book that you can make into a movie because of like how tight the plot is, and just so fun. And everybody should read this thing, even if you haven't read any first Law, even if you're only into like standalones that can be read as a standalone. It is just really, really, really good. Then I read Battle Mage by Peter A. Flannery. This is a standalone book that is... Well, it was a standalone when it was written, but I've since found out because on my YouTube page, Peter Flannery commented saying he is planning on writing a prequel and a sequel, but was not planning that when he wrote the original, but it could be a very long time until they come out. This one was chosen for me by a TBR winner, so if you win my TBR contest twice, you get to pick a book for me to read. This was the choice. I'd never really heard of it before. I predicted a 4, and I gave it a 5. This is the best surprise of the month. It just blew me out of the water with how good this thing is. It's technically beautiful. The plot is so good. It's a dense epic fantasy series that feels like it's just been crammed into a single like 800-page book. Now the 800 is a lot of pages, but so much happens that it really feels like you just read like a full trilogy. It's wonderful stuff, and I would encourage it to everybody that likes a more epic fantasy with dragons. Then I read, so you might be thinking like, how did I give less than a 4 for this month? Because everything that I've read so far has been a 4 or a 5, mostly 5s. and it's because of this one. I read The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. It's the first book in a new series of his. I think it's called The Librarians, but I could be wrong. I predicted a 3 because I don't love Mark Lawrence. I've read 3 of his books now, and I didn't love any of them. And I gave this one a 1. I DNF'd it. It's the worst surprise of the month and the worst book that I read this month. Now, this is an unpopular opinion because Mark Lawrence is very popular for good reason. He's a wonderful guy. He runs the 𝐬𝐵O competition. I don't even want to try to tell you what that acronym is for, but it's this self-published author. No, self-published SPFB, self-published book blog off, SPFBO, self-published fantasy blog off. That's got to be it. Self-published fantasy blog off, I think. And it's just awesome. I love what he's doing for the community. And tons of people love his stuff. The way he writes is very unique. It just doesn't work for me. This one was very out there in that you had to read between the lines, and it was kind of confusing what was going on and beautifully written. I don't like that kind of stuff. I want Steve to be a little bit more direct. I want my plotting to kind of hit more tight and show the plot a little more than let the reader infer it. It just didn't work. But yeah, I get why people love this thing. Then the second to last book that I read was Dark Matter. This is by Blake Crouch, an author that I've never read before because I don't really normally read thrillers. This one was also picked for me on my Patreon raffle wheel. And I predicted a 4 and I gave it a 3.5. I felt like it was good to okay. I'm not a thriller fan, so let me just put that out there. But the writing was pretty weak. It felt like something I could write, which is not a compliment. But the plot was interesting enough to keep me really going and leave it feeling like I didn't hate my time reading it. It's this interesting take on the multi-dimensions aspect of there's a split in time every time a decision is made, and there's these different alternate realities going on, and what does that mean if you can travel between them, and fun stuff, but didn't really like the writing style or the characters here. And then the final book that I read this month was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I predicted a 5, and I gave it a 5, and I love this thing. It's an extremely entertaining book. I just finished it a couple days ago, and it's so fun. I don't want to tell you anything that it's about because I would ruin the core aspects that make this book beautiful. If you haven't read this, go into it with no expectations. Don't read anything about it. Just go into it. Do the audiobook if you can. The audiobook's wonderful, and it definitely increases the enjoyability out of this thing. They're turning this one into a movie, so this is by the author of The Martian, and in every way, I feel like this one is better than The Martian. So yeah, check this one out. Extremely fun. So that is it for the books that I read, but now let's go to the books that were sent to me this month, and I got a decent amount of them. As always, when authors send me books, I always say I will not read them because I have too many books that are planned. But if you want to send me one, I will show it off, read the back cover, tell people where they can buy it. So the first, and I'll read a little bit of the back cover. Maybe not the whole thing if it's long, but I'll try to read as much as I can. The first one is The Sins of Kings. This is book 1 of The Last of the Valdriz by Daniel Thomas Valenti. And the back cover says, in a kingdom fraught with power struggles, an outside force threatens to undermine the centuries-long reign of the Greymere family. At the center of the emerging conflict are young Darren and Princess Edlin. Darren desires to overcome the stain of his family history and rise to the ranks of the Eyes of the Forest, a group of men sworn to protect the vast forests of Onris. Meanwhile, Princess Edlin, though deeply loyal to her friends, accepts to thwart the control of her royal family that holds over her life by sneaking about disguised as a peasant. When a neighboring kingdom conspires against the realm, Darren and Edlin must fight to not only survive, but pave a way forward, despite the wishes of the mercurial-tempered gods and a mysterious organization known as the 𝐬𝐻𝑁𝐐. Can they survive the ensuing chaos, or will they be too felled by forces greater than themselves? Next up is Forbidden Road. This is in the Evans Witches series by Ruth Barak. And the back cover says, Kim Taylor knows the value of secrets. If the wrong people find out she's a witch, the final year college student will risk her family and her own existence. But living in hiding comes at a terrible price. Nobody is there to help her when a spell sends her to the distant past. With no memory of who she is, without her powers to protect her, she unknowingly becomes an integral part of her father's plot to assassinate the king. Olympic fencer Seth Rivers needs a college degree to secure a steady job, but when he meets Kim and falls hard and fast for her captivating beauty and independence, he knows he will do anything to keep her safe, even going back in time and forgetting everything he knows, except that now, in the past, Kim is a trader's daughter and Seth must protect his king. And in a world of dangerous magic, dragons, and violent knights, the life of a trader's daughter is not something that Seth would think twice before sacrificing. Then we have Apocalypse Assassin. This is in the System Orphans Claire series by J.J. Thorne, and there is no back cover. I mean, there is, but there's no words. Is it on the inside cover? No. None of them? No. Anything inside? Quick author's note about a massive amount of violence, which sounds dope. But no, I don't have... I don't know what it's about, but looks cool. Next up is The Light in Death. This is by Dennis Schramer. The back cover. Jessie Gill thought it'd be easy running a business, healing the sick, and raising the dead. Just put up an amazing billboard and people should beg to have him take their money, right? Results weren't as expected, and when he resurrects Sean, who comes into his own magical abilities, he feels obligated to take him on as an apprentice. Unfortunately, it seems that his new student's sole purpose is to mess everything up. When Sean takes it upon himself to raise someone from the dead of his own, Jesse finds himself facing a nightmarish creature, a body without a soul, a husk. As a result, he must become more than just a healer. He'd have to become a hero. To do this, he must increase his power over energy, the fuel for life, the soul, and magic. Things go awry, and while he's dealing with this new threat, he's forced to face his past and confront whether he even can be a hero or if he's destined to be a villain. All this while he reconnects with his sister, the only other survivor of the darkness that befalls his family's years prior. Sorry, messed that one up. Two more. And the first of those two is The Son of the Deathless by Nicholas Kotar. This is part of the Children of Vasilia. Really long back cover. I'm not going to read it all, but part of it says, born on the vernal equinox, his first breath drawn while he lay on blood-soaked soil in the mystic woods of Deny, Andre's birth portended heroism, power, and destiny. And yet, other than an unusual affinity for the land, the boy has lived a life indistinguishable from that of any other child born in Deny. A life of secluded, prosperous, boring contentment. But when two soldiers arrive fleeing the never-ending wars of an evil empress, everything changes. Andre's home has at last been found by the Empire, and the empress demands her due, denies crops and food to feed her subjects. It's men and women to fight her wars. Worst of all, the empress has the mother of Kish, a sorceress whose thirst for blood and power knows no bounds, to oversee Dunai's conquest. And last up, I don't know what this is, but it's in a cool box. The box says... Seven Fates Choco, Hype's fantasy webcomics from K-pop sensations coming to print. And inside I got a bunch of goodies, it looks like. The first of those goodies is a tote bag that my kids will absolutely love. I love getting swag. My kids go crazy for it. We've got a cool little pin. We've got some stickers, more stickers, and two different, really short little special preview of the Star Seekers, really tiny, and then a bigger one that looks like the actual book. And there is a back cover, and I will read it. One day, 𝐒𝐤 wakes up in a hospital bed with a nasty wound on his chest and no memory of what happened. Before he can get his bearings, a city detective reveals that he was found collapsed on 𝐿𝐴𝐿 Mountain, the sole survivor of a grisly mass murder. This was only the beginning. The 𝐵iOM, monstrous entities from another world, stalk the street, mauling and devouring anyone they can find. When 𝐒𝐤 learns that he is somehow at the center of it all, he decides to stand up and fight. But first, he will need allies, a team of 7 individuals drawn to each other as if guided by fate itself. And this is a comic, which is cool. So that is it for this video. Stay tuned tomorrow for my TBR video, and the contest will open, and I hope you will join it. Stay tuned for that, and as always, happy reading to you. Thanks again to all my patrons, with a special shout out to my Ascendant tier and Librarian tier patrons: Anna G, CJ, Doust, Darren, Gregory, Jonathan, Nathan T, Nev's Book Channel, 𝐿, Ron Reich, Russell, Ryan L, Sydney Baker, Tahir, Anna, Andra, Blair, Brock, Evan, Fanixan, Harry B, Joe, Kat Mick, Maria, Michael Sugarman, Sky, TW57, Wacky, and Zion. Thanks for sticking to the end of this video, and if you want to watch some more content from my channel, click over here and I've got some good videos for you. Thanks so much.